guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Dorothy Wang, star of the upcoming Netflix series Bling Empire New York. It is a spin-off of the original Bling Empire series, which has gone on for 3 seasons. Dorothy joined that show in season 2, and at the end of that season she moved to New York. And so it was obviously a setup for a spin-off. It took a while for them to confirm that, and when I interviewed her for this show last year, we were kind of dancing around it because she couldn't confirm it. But the trailer came out at the end of last year. It looked amazing. I've watched most of the new episodes, and it's honestly great. Like it's way more compelling to me than the LA show ended up being, especially the thought of having it without her. Like I gave up. I didn't watch the 3rd season of that show. But this one, it has a New York energy. It's fun to see her sort of navigating New York. There are some great people that are on this cast that she's friends with. There are certain people that we talked about that she does not vibe with, and you have to have some of that tension on a cast, so it works. Honestly, my biggest complaint about the show is that it doesn't focus on her more, because I don't really care about all these new additions. And I kind of wish we'd seen more of her figuring out New York, but maybe that can be season 2 of Bling Empire New York. But yeah, it was fun to talk to her about her move to New York, what went into that decision, how it's changed her. She's lived here for over a year now, because this was filmed at the beginning of last year. And yeah, it was a great interview. I think that Dorothy is such a star. She's made to be on TV, and she knows how to carry a show. So keep listening for my interview with Dorothy Wang. Stream Bling Empire New York on Netflix starting January 20th. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Dorothy Wang, who is the star of the upcoming Netflix show Bling Empire New York. Dorothy, I feel like this is almost like the worst kept secret. We knew it was coming. I'm so happy it's here. How are you doing? Are you excited for the show to finally be out?
Yes, I'm so excited. I feel like everyone was asking about it. Almost feels like it's been like 2 years. And I just have to keep teasing it. Oh, maybe, but yeah, like you said, I think it was kind of like the worst kept secret. So yeah, I'm so excited that it is finally coming out January 20th, and we can just all watch my fun little adventures and moving to New York.
I love it. And yeah, because I feel like, so we did an interview at the very end of the last season of Bling Empire, which you had just joined, and then it ended with you moving to New York, and it was like, it felt like we were being set up for a spinoff, but then there was a long pause of
Yes.
okay, why haven't we confirmed this? Were you sort of waiting too? Were you like, okay, when is this coming out?
I always love when shows come out as soon as possible, because I'm always like, hey, on to the next. Let's capture it as much in real time as we can. Then, my outfits and my looks don't look outdated. Everything feels, but originally it was supposed to air before season 3 of Bling LA. That was the plan that was told to me. You're gonna be on this for a little bit, and then you're gonna fly, and then it's gonna start with you. But I don't. They chose Netflix. They have their ways of wanting to do things, and so for programming, they decided to hold it until January and to launch in January. So it's been 1 full year. So we started filming last January 15th was our first day. That was the day I moved. So it's going to be exactly 1 year since we started filming. So I'm really excited to just push it out and let's just watch it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off finally, and cringe at some things and hopefully love most of it.
Are you almost, have you seen the episodes? Have you seen the full season yet?
No. So we actually don't get to see anything before it comes out. So I just tune in and watch it everyone else.
Well, I've seen some of it, so not to brag, but.
Okay. So yeah, you have a higher standing than I do at Netflix, apparently. No, they purposely, I think they don't really want to show us sometimes, because I think they're upset that they're scared that maybe we're not like something, we're not going to show up to the premiere, blah, 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 try to get things removed. So they don't show us. I would love to know, so then I could know what to prepare for, how to answer certain questions. So tell me, since you
okay. Well, I think you should be really happy with it. My biggest complaint honestly about it is that I wish that there was more just about you living your life, because to me this show is obviously built around you and your friends that you've made in the city and the people you've met, but I wish that some of the focus was more oh, let's just watch Dorothy kind of in her everyday New York life, figuring it out and whatever. But there's a lot of drama focus, obviously, but it's still
I feel I was telling them, I think we're on the same break. I was you're missing. I've literally called. I want to be as accurate and as open as I can with everything. So like even during the season, I'm like, I'm doing this, you're missing it. Are you sure you don't want to come? Blah, blah, blah. So I think that, yeah, we didn't really, there was, I think there's just only so much time.
Totally.
There's so many different people on the show, but I guess it's good to like leave them wanting more.
I think so too. So, okay, so let's talk about your decision to move to New York. So, what it's kind of a chicken or egg situation. What came first? Like your decision to move to New York and kind of just get out of your comfort zone and do that, or this opportunity to do Bling Empire and then potentially get a spin-off from it if you did move to New York? Like, what was the sort of process there?
So I actually was planning to move to New York first. So during COVID, I told myself, I kind of like looked at my life in COVID. I was like, you're such a loser. Why didn't you travel? Like, why didn't you move, went to somewhere else? So you've only lived in LA your whole life. So then I told myself after COVID, I'm going to move to New York. And so that was already in my mind. I'm going to move to New York at the end of next year, move to New York at the end of next year. And then they kept asking me to do Bling Empire LA, and I was kind of apprehensive about it. And just because I felt like everyone has already seen me run around LA and Beverly Hills with my friends. Like it just felt redundant to me, and it didn't feel authentic for me to join this cast of people just because.
And those weren't like your friend group necessarily,
exactly,
right?
just because maybe like we all look similar or whatever, like it doesn't make sense. It didn't feel right. So I just kept like, I kind of like politely declined a couple times. And so finally, when I said, I just can't film a show in LA because I'm moving to New York. And then when I said that, they like lit up and they're like, you're moving to New York? Like we're thinking of building a franchise in New York. You can lead it. You can introduce us to your real life friends. You can like have a hand in, like who's involved and bring in your life and all this stuff. So then that I suddenly became interested in.
Totally.
So I got the New York series first, and then they kind of were like, oh well, if you're doing New York, we need to spin you off and build it up. So then I did some appearances in the LA cast as well.
Well, it worked out really well, honestly. And I feel like for you, because you talked a little bit on the show how like you were nervous to make the move, you were kind of emotional about it once it actually happened, but once you told the producers and you were sort of locked into the show, was there a moment where you were like, holy shit, like I actually do have to do this and I do actually have to move? Or were you like always full throttle?
Knew that I wanted to move.
Okay.
And I wasn't like sad about, I don't know. I didn't have any like, when I became emotional the day that I moved or I left LA, it was surprising to me, like hit me out of nowhere. Cause I was just excited. Oh my God, I get this new experience, blah, blah. But when for some reason, the day I was moving, I actually cried. I was like, did not see this coming. And I just felt like, I don't know, now learning, my friends were saying that like moving is actually very traumatic on your body and on your like mental state and stuff like that. And you get very emotional. I didn't see it coming. I was just excited. I was like, I'm going to move to this new city. I get to see all my friends here. I get to film this new show. Like I was all excited. And then then I spent a week crying. So, I mean, it was just hard, I think, but I mean, I always knew that I wanted to be here. I knew that I would stay longer than just filming because a lot of my friends, like, I think everyone just was like, you're such an LA girl. You're not going to be able to, New York is dirty. New York, you're not going to be able to like rough it. But like, I love it here. And I feel like this is my life and this is where I'm meant to be for now. And even after we finished filming, I'm like a lot of people from LA, like, oh, so you're done, you're wrapped, when are you moving back? I was like, no, I live here. And they're like, wait, what? No, like you're an LA girl. I'm like, I'm a New York girl for now. So I have been loving it. I've been having so much fun. I'm that cheesy person that like, when they say like, you just miss the city. Like when I leave or I go somewhere else, I literally miss the city and I miss like the energy of the city, just walking down the street. Like I'm really that girl now.
Yeah. I've been here for 7.5 years and I feel like you do crave that feeling. Like I do have to pull myself out of it like every month and a half or so to like at least like just like calm down a little bit. But you miss that once you have that taste of that energy in the day-to-day life, like it's hard to leave that.
And it's also like, I also just feel so like thankful and grateful that like I have the opportunity to just pick up and move somewhere else. And also that like, I have a life that I can't wait to get back to. I feel like maybe I was just in LA for too long, but like, it's like at the end of a trip or whatever, like, oh, we have to go back home. But here, like, I'm always so excited to come back.
So explain to people who maybe didn't watch that first, your one season of Bling Empire in LA, and are intrigued by this, like, why did you decide to move to New York? Or why was it really just like sort of seeing everybody doing different things during COVID, or was it something that was simmering for you for a while? Explain sort of exactly why you decided to make the move.
So I'm an LA girl, born and raised. I lived
Mm-hmm.
there for what 33 years of my life. So I worked really hard to like create a perfect, very comfortable life where everything was like very seamless. But then I feel like I honestly got a little bit bored and it got a little too easy and not challenging for me. And I love like trying new restaurants, doing new things. Like I almost was craving, like I want to be planted somewhere and need to look for a new nail salon or like my new coffee shop or the new place to go to
Sure.
Pilates. I love to explore and I just needed a shake up. I just feel like I was in LA for too long. Everything got too safe and comfortable. And I love meeting new people too. And I just think that I just needed a shift and a change in energy. I just needed to, get out of my perfect little LA life and experience something different.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's been over a year since you've lived here. How has it changed you? How do you feel like you've adapted to living here?
I honestly love it. And I think I adapted better than people expected. Like I have friends
Mm-hmm.
that visit me, like they visited me last year, they would text out my other friends like, oh, she's a goner, we lost her, like she's so comfortable, like she's like in her element here. Like I really feel like this is like for me, and I just like my pace for right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe when I get a little bit more tired, I'm gonna want to just go back to LA and luxuriate. But for now, like I love the fast pacedness of it. There's so much stuff going on all the time, and also it's not like I'm out all the time, but it's weird. I like knowing that there's an option. Even if
100%.
I choose to be at home and just watch TV in my pajamas, it's comforting to me to know that like I could be out and about and there's a lot of stuff going on around me if I wanted to. I just feel like when you're young and in this time, it's kind of like maybe like my last kind of hoorah, my like Sex and the City era. Like for college, I went to USC.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my friends went to NYU and they had their little moment here to explore the city. I'm always a little bit of like a late adapter. So I think that it just took me a little bit longer than everyone else to have that moment.
Never too late. And honestly, maybe waiting a little bit longer has allowed you to live an even better life in New York and even
I
kind of be
really
more
think
comfortable
so
with
too,
it.
because I think that like if I was like in my 20s here, I don't know, I feel like it would just be very messy for me.
Well, I think what you talked about is like there is the idea that every night you do know somebody who's at a dinner or out or getting drinks. And it's like in your 20s, I think it's about you would have FOMO about that and you would definitely always decide to go. And now it's like you can pick and
Wow.
choose and be okay with, again, being on your couch and watching TV or
Yeah.
whatever.
So actually, a lot of my friends from LA have also moved to New York, and
Love
everyone
it.
goes through that first month where like they haven't realized that like in LA there's so few things going on. Sometimes you just say yes to everything. So here, like everyone is still learning when they first move here. Like you can say no. So everyone's first month they're like depleted because they're so
Just
tired because
saying
they
yes
don't
to
know how to
everything.
control. Yeah, and also here in LA the clubs tell you when to go home. Like 2 o'clock, lights up, bye. Here,
New York,
you
no.
have to practice self-control and you need to take yourself home. So that's also actually like a thing that people have to learn and adapt to.
Totally. All right, so let's get into some of the people on the show. It seems like Tina is the person that you have gone the farthest back with. You guys have the most genuine, really a genuine connection. Like you guys seem to be really, really close. Talk to me about your friendship with her. How did you guys meet? And sort of, does everyone else from the group sort of branch off from her? Is that how it all kind of works?
So Tina, I think I met Tina maybe like 5, 6 years ago. So we share a mutual friend, a best friend, Ezra, and we just
Mm-hmm.
ran in similar circles. But I think I officially met her like 5 years ago at one of Ezra's birthday parties. And we've always had like a nice, easy, fun relationship. Like when I would see her in LA, and when I would see her in New York for Fashion Week, or she would come for mutual friend's birthday. So we've always had like a relationship. And so when I heard that they were talking to her, I was like, oh my God. So like this is like my crew. This is like, someone
Right,
I'm
legit.
close with and legit. And I know, like, I don't know, like life is too short to be filming and running around with people that like you that just don't like that you don't want to be around, or maybe they don't feel like they have the best intentions or the best character. So for me, that was really important. And so I know Tina, I know like her character, I know like the type of person she is, and like I know that I trust her and I feel open and
Totally.
and we have a lot of fun together. So that was like very exciting for me. And then I actually suggested Richard, because I had known Richard from a long time ago. And there's certain, I'm always like producer braining. I'm like,
Right.
this, like, he has a girlfriend, like he's really like,
Cool business. Yeah.
yeah. And so I thought that he'd be a great addition. And Lynn, we have some mutual friends also. I've always known of Lynn Bond and,
Yeah.
her fashions and her slays, but I didn't meet her officially until before we filmed. So I was really excited that Lynn was doing it too. And so most of the people that were casted, I was like very excited to meet them. And like we ran in similar circles. So I knew that like we would all be copacetic and get along and have similar interests and like have fun and enjoy each other.
100%. Yeah, Lynn was really cool to watch. I thought that she brought a lot to the
Yeah.
show. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you suggested Richard, because I feel like you two,
I know.
as we see in this season, like it doesn't, you call him a wrangler at some point when you're out at Long Island. And what, I guess, can you explain your dynamic with Richard and why maybe during filming it didn't particularly pop off with you guys?
I honestly, during filming, I was like upset at myself for asking them to put Richard on the show. It's not the like who I like remembered him as.
When did you realize that?
I didn't really like the role. Like I thought Richard, even if you look at his social media stuff, he's like a fun guy. He's always out. He's a nice guy, So I thought he would be kind of like our fun, like almost like bigger brother figure, like that fun
Totally.
male energy, like almost like a bro figure. And he just, I think, was a lot more serious all the time and I was just like, oh, like let's just have fun. And he would just be like, well, as a CEO, and I'm like, we don't care, like like I don't. So like I said, I don't know what actually airs and what doesn't, but he was just so uptight all the time, and I would be like, jump in the pool, and he wouldn't jump in the pool, or like it was just always a thing, and it didn't feel like he was being authentic to me some of the time, and I do realize that maybe people, they're nervous on television. They want to project a certain image, but I would always tell them just like, be yourself. Like, I'd feel like an audience would rather watch someone who's genuinely being themselves than maybe someone who's more reputable, but you can tell it's not authentic.
Totally. Yeah.
And they also don't watch TV. They just want to be with fun people and watch and have it be fun and entertaining. It doesn't have to be serious. So I think Richard and we didn't really get off on so I had met Richard maybe literally like 15, 20 years ago. And then I think maybe we we saw each other here and there. We had a lot of mutual friends.
We didn't really know each other in a deep way.
Yeah, we never knew or hung out. So then the Richard in my mind was a lot different than the Richard that would show up and make everything so serious all the time. And then I was like, no, this is not what I wanted.
Totally. Yeah. There's a couple moments to kick off the season, where he has a charity event and he really wants you to promote it and donate things. And then he wants you to stop by his business and promote his business. And it sort of felt like there was a little bit of user, I think is too strong of a word, but a little bit like he was trying to use you for your following and your clout. And did you feel that during the season as well?
I felt like he felt a little wheeler and dealer-ish with me, very transactional, but also I'm someone, if we're very close friends, of course I'm going to do this for you, but I also feel like you need to have a genuine connection and relationship. Not every text you send someone can be a favor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes maybe it should be lunch or
totally, exactly. Or how was your night?
Yeah. And we also we were all very busy with filming and we all had our own things to plan. And then he wanted, I think the charity that was Tina and I also weren't really sleeping. That was the break of everything with charity. And he wanted us to do so much for his charity. And we're like, well, it's your charity. Why don't you we all have he was asking a lot. I think that, and when people ask a lot in the beginning of when you're kind of like just meeting them. It kind of is a little.
Yeah, I mean,
It just
it makes you
wasn't
it makes you
enjoyable.
suspicious of them, and like it's like, why you really want to be connected to me? You know, that has to be something that kind of happens a lot, kind of in your
So
industry though too.
sometimes, like, we're all filming, we're all tired. Like, let me have this break without having to do this for you or do that, you know?
Yeah, it's a little naive, I think, but I
But
think
I
that
don't think he's a bad guy. I do think
definitely
that
not.
relaxes, maybe. Like, I think we get along actually better, like when we're not filming and there's not so many things going on.
Right. Yeah. And even towards the end of the season, it seems like you guys relaxed around one another once you kind of established your boundaries and what your dynamic could be. But I think that maybe he came into it thinking it could be one thing, and so did you, but it didn't align
And
really.
maybe also like he's better. Most people use shows like this as an opportunity for X,
Yeah.
Y. I literally have no plan. I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about like these cupcakes baked and like wear this outfit. Like I just
Totally.
kind of have fun. So I don't look at it as like, oh, this is a great time to promote this X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z. Have a game plan. But most people, it's their right to do that because it obviously is like a big platform that they can, endorse or talk about whatever,
But it should be more natural, I think. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's the other person that you sort of do not get along with is Deborah, as you would say, who
Okay.
and you guys never really have like a kind of a moment to talk about it because she stands you up at lunch during this season, and repeatedly calls you the wrong name. She calls you Tiffany in her confessionals. Like it's a lot.
Not that for me, by the way, because I called her the wrong name like the whole time. I call her Deborah. So then obviously, like, you think she came up with that on her own? Come on.
Oh, there
So
we
then
go.
someone floated that to her, and then so she called me like,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I think you know my name.
I think so too.
I mean, if
But
you're joining, if
was she
you
just trying to push your buttons? Like what's the deal there?
I think this is what happens with me a lot is that sometimes if people feel like I'm not as warm and open with them, then they're like, oh, and they get really weird with me a little bit. And like with my issue, kind of with them during the filming season, is they had an event and I had just moved that week and I didn't know them. I'm like, it doesn't make sense for me to go to this event. Why didn't you know the event? The producers are like, please, please, please come to the event. Please, please come for an hour. We'll do anything, blah, 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 whatever, things on the table if you go to this event for an hour. I show up for an hour. So I have to get ready for 2 hours. I show up at the event for an hour. It's from 8 to 7 to 10. I show up at 8:30. Does not feel,
Halfway
crazy.
through, come on, or
It's
yeah,
not
an
a
hour and a
sit
half in.
down dinner. There was no food, obviously, as we know. Like it's a floating event. So I show up, and that like was not enough. They're upset that I wasn't there for his speech. That because I think they just felt like it was like disrespectful. I didn't go to the speech, but it's like if you're having a party and event for people, you're not like what in real life you don't tell people when to show up and when not to at
Totally.
your party. You're having a party.
Or if it's important to come by because there's a speech at 8, tell people that in advance.
Yeah. And also like, why do I need to be there to listen to you like talk about your project? Like, I don't know, your NFT or whatever you're doing. Like, I don't know you. So I didn't, that was kind of, and then I think with that, they thought I was rude that I came late. Or sometimes if I say, I'll say hello to everyone. Hi, nice to meet you. But then they go, oh, she doesn't like me. Oh, she's not saying hi. Oh, she's not doing this. She's not doing that. Like they were just so, I feel like hyper focused on me for some reason.
Right.
So it's just very interesting that they don't know my name. If you are also auditioning for a show that I'm headlining, I think that you've probably heard my name before somewhere.
It seems like there's a bit of a complex of like trying to establish herself as somebody who doesn't need you to
Yeah.
be the person she wants to be, but it's your
I
show,
think
your
if
show.
you watch the show and you just know, like you can tell who is between the two sides of like me and them. You can tell who like cares more about their image and making everything look,
Definitely.
and who's a little bit just more like chill and natural. But I called, so production had called her Deborah. And so then I started calling her Deborah, and then I heard then she started calling me a different name. So I'm sure someone like floated it to her, like, oh,
Definitely.
she's doing this, you should do that. Or maybe
Definitely.
she came up, who knows, maybe she came up with it herself.
I think it wasn't meant to be with you guys to be friends, but that's okay because I think that there's enough other people on this cast that you get
Yeah.
along well with.
And
It's
you don't have to
fun.
be friends with everyone. That's
No,
like
definitely not.
you join these shows and they make it so like out of proportion, like, oh my God, they hate each other, they're feuding, but like we don't exist in each other's lives. Like I'm not in her universe and she's not in my universe, or they like we don't run in the same circles. It's not like maybe when we're filming, it's like, oh, we're like it's this big thing, but
Right.
really we orbit differently. You
Yeah,
know, and
totally.
I'm fine with being in a, I don't need to be best friends with everyone in the room. Like I'll say hi and move on, but sometimes that just isn't enough, I guess, for
They need
everyone.
you need the conflict, you know, you had to have for the cameras. But anyway, but I really from what I've seen of this season, it's really fun. Like it's what I wanted a spinoff based around you in New York to be. I really feel like that. I mean, I guess looking back generally, has this been a good experience for you? Do you want to do it again? How are you thinking about Bling Empire New York for yourself?
This was a fun, good experience, but I just think that sometimes not that I regret, like, I just remember being so tired and overwhelmed during the season. I almost like when we get time off, I feel like I'm just like a lighter, brighter, happier person. I'm like, oh, I wish we could just film one episode now and one episode, like, you know, it just doesn't happen like that. So, you know, sometimes, you know, you see kind of sometimes some crankiest version and
Mm,
most deprived version of ourselves. But, you know, I think that it was overall a good experience. I think that, you know, I love that there's like this is going to become a franchise and there's going to be
yes.
2 cities or 3 or 4, you know, and so I love that for my people, for my culture, just for visibility. So I love that, you know, that we're doing that, and that obviously the show exists, and that I can just like come on and share my life and share my stories and like have fun with my friends.
Totally. And a little bit in the season, we explore some of your love life. We're looking for a man out there. You do meet a guy on one of the trips.
Mhm.
What's your relationship status now? How's it going in the love life department?
Like I hate when it's like, oh, she's like, I think they really try to tailor it to like, oh, I'm moving here to date. Like I didn't
Definitely.
move here to date. I literally told them that. I was like, you cannot make it seem like I moved cross country just to date people. Like that's not,
It doesn't seem like you did it because of that. It seems like that's
it's like
part of
an added plus. But you know,
right.
like when they start asking you an interview questions like over and over about dating, I'm like, oh God, this is
Oh
gonna
God,
be
this is the
a thing.
angle.
People love watching dating, and I know it's entertaining and it's fun and whatever. So, you know, when I moved here, but I did go on better dates here than in LA. I feel like
Okay.
it was a fresh pond for me to fish in, and it was just different. It was fun. I just like here, like there's less preconceived notions, and like I don't know anyone here, so it's not like, oh, this guy dated this person, and oh, I can't go on a dinner with him, he did this in the 7th grade, like, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just, I just felt more open and free here to just like go on dates, and like no one cares, like no, like I just like people are less gossipy here. They don't, no one cares about me here, so no
Yeah.
one's like,
There's less
oh,
pretense. Yeah, totally.
exactly. So it
Yeah.
was fun to just like date and get to
Love
know
that.
people and
Love
explore.
that. And then also at one point in the season, you talk a little about a health complication that you had. I think before the last Bling Empire, but you were having all these rashes and like all these kind of reactions to different things, and you weren't sure what it was. You figured out that you're allergic to onions and tomatoes. But I'm
Onions,
sure like
chicken and stuff.
talk to me
So
about
I
that, because that's probably something that other people probably go through.
You do. So now I think also one of my, I wish that I could film the first season now because I'm honestly feeling so much better. And that was one of my apprehensions in joining Bling Empire New York, or even joining in LA, because I was like, I literally was just feeling terrible. I was so bloated. I didn't look like myself. I didn't feel like myself. I was getting allergic reactions every other day. Like everything
Hmm.
in my body was just like haywire. And like doctors, I was getting IVs every other day. Like it was just not a fun time for me. And so I feel like I wasn't like my shiny, like I wasn't at my
Mm.
best. And I was also just like bogged down by all these things. So when I moved to New York, I started feeling a little bit better, but I still wasn't, I just felt, I didn't feel like me. I wasn't like, I don't know. I can't, it's just, I didn't feel like me. I didn't feel like I looked like me. My face didn't move like how like it should move. Like I just had so much inflammation. So then I recently actually, I was getting a little bit better by cutting those foods out that I was having, that I was allergic to. But then I
Right.
went to a doctor actually in LA who's been helping me with my PCOS. And so since then I like literally saw like a sudden turn, and just, and like my inflammation went away, like my like vibrancy came back, like my stomach doesn't hurt all day anymore. So it's just like now I feel like I like am like living my, I'm like back to my old self
Good.
again, and I'm like living my best life like
Refreshed.
how I should. Yes, I feel like I feel like I've like risen from the ashes. Like the depths my despair. But it sucks that like, I mean, I guess I'm gonna have like this like yearbook of like a year when I'm like not feeling my best. I'll look back on, but you
Well,
know,
I think
we all
Dorothy, I think
struggle.
New York looks good on you, and I feel like there's sort of like a newfound like carefreeness to you about being here, and just sort of like, again, I feel like there's obviously classic differences between LA and New York, but I feel
Yeah.
like getting this taste of New York for you, it just seems like it's been really good for you, and
It,
I can
it
just
really
tell.
has. It's opened me up, and even my friends like you're like a much more chill. I think in LA, everything is so perfect all the time. So if
Yeah,
everything goes off being perfect, like it's like, and I'm such a perfectionist. So here, like New York is actually great for like a healing perfectionist because nothing goes how you want it to go, and you
nothing.
to move on. And so I bet it's been like great immersive therapy for me to be in a city where like no one goes above and beyond and nothing is ever going right and
No,
perfect.
no, 100%. Like everything requires a little bit more effort, a little
Yeah,
bit more. Like you're going to be a little more disheveled when you show up somewhere. So to be
exactly.
okay
Like,
with that is probably freeing.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Totally. Well, Dorothy, I'm excited for everyone to see Bling Empire New York. I'm excited for you to see the show and see what you think about it. But I'm happy to have you back on Netflix. And again, I'm happy this all worked out for you because again, New York is great for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being so generous with your time. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.